And Biden wrapping up his trip overseas, like Zach just mentioned. Back home, he's facing issues with voters as Americans express that growing displeasure with his foreign policy. Here with us now, Massachusetts Congressman and Democrat Jake Auchincloss. Congressman, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. So President Biden has repeatedly called for a ceasefire deal to happen between Israel and Hamas. What are your thoughts on what the president has proposed and, of course, the likelihood that it will actually happen?
Phase one is an important piece of progress that is functionally similar to the deal that's been on the table for 6 months now and that Hamas has repeatedly rejected. It's important as we evaluate this proposal that we zoom out and think about the two core objectives of this war. The first is getting the hostages home, and that requires sustained Israeli military pressure on Hamas, as well as arm twisting by Arab states, particularly Egypt and Qatar, so that Hamas is caught in a pincer movement between Israel and its Arab allies and has to accede to these basic humanitarian demands. The second objective is the defeat of Hamas so that we can have a permanent ceasefire. Because for so long as Hamas has any role in governance in Gaza, there will be further war. That's not my opinion. That's Hamas's promise based on its charter that requires it to destroy the state of Israel and its own promises since October 7th. Those are the two objectives. Phase one allows for both to proceed. The first, because it gets the hostages home, or some of the hostages, I should say, through a temporary ceasefire. And the second, because it does not handcuff Israel's ability to continue to apply both governance and military strategies in Gaza to drain Hamas's political capital and destroy its senior leadership.
Well, Congressman, members of your own party don't support Israel, but you stand firmly behind the nation. What's your messaging to those members of Congress on your own side who are not in support?
I do strongly support Israel's right to defend itself, and I would point out that 80% of Democrats, including the Democratic House leader, the Democratic Senate leader, and of course the Democratic president, supported recent military aid to Israel, as well as have supported Iron Dome, have condemned Hamas. So I think declarations about the divisions within the Democratic Party are overdone. They are really being defined by a small group of outliers who regrettably have a blind spot and a set of double standards for Israel that doesn't seem to apply elsewhere. The Democratic Party.
Go ahead.
Please go ahead.
Well, if it's double standards, we do have to talk about the death count in Gaza. You were a former Marine. What can the U.S. do to support Israel in these rescue missions but avoid the civilian death count well into the tens of thousands? The Gaza Health Ministry is reporting there were at least 250 deaths during this operation that, of course, rescued 4 Israeli hostages.
First of all, let's be clear that the Gaza Health Ministry is Hamas. So any numbers that come from Hamas need to be treated with skepticism. I'm not saying there weren't civilian casualties. Of course they were. Each one is a unique tragedy that is to be lamented. And each one is ultimately the culpability of Hamas. Hamas started this war by raping, torturing, killing, and taking hostages innocent civilians. And they have built upon a 15-year legacy of immiserating their own people by using them now as human shields when Israel is just trying to get their own people home, including 5 Americans.
So what's more important, getting those hostages home or defeating Hamas?
They're both vital, and they're both vital for the simple reason that unless Hamas is defeated, there will be more hostages in the future. Hamas, over its 15-year governance regime, has violated 5 previous ceasefires. Of course, it violated one on October 7th. And then after October 7th, it told the world, we're going to do it again. And when terrorists tell the world they're going to kill Jews, we should believe them. They will do this again unless they were removed from their outposts in Rafah and Khan Yunis and elsewhere, which is why it's so important that Israel has security control over the perimeter. Now, within Gaza proper, though, there needs to be Palestinian-led governance, and that is where I do believe the War Cabinet has fallen short. They have not twinned their military operations with same-day governance operations that provide security, infrastructure, economic development for the 2 million Palestinian people who deserve dignity and self-determination.
What challenges is Congress facing to fund both Israel and Ukraine? I know you're a staunch supporter of funding Ukraine as well. If you can talk to me about that.
In a word, MAGA. There's no challenges in terms of a conception of our national security. It's apparent that as we fund Ukraine, as we fund Israel in its fight against Iran and its proxy terror regime, as we fund Taiwan's self-defense against an increasingly belligerent Chinese Communist Party, the return on investment for our own national security is profound. I mean, look at our fight in Ukraine. for less than Americans spend on soft drinks every year. We have doubled Russia's border with NATO. We have cratered much of its conventional military capacity. And we have sent a message to autocrats, not just in Moscow, but in Beijing and Tehran, that the United States will stand with freedom and democracy the world over. Look at Joe Biden in Europe this last week. He has been an exemplar of the sustainer of the rules-based order that has helped spread peace and prosperity the world over. It's Donald Trump who wants to retreat into America first isolationism that would ultimately make us all less safe.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.